Hi guys, happy Thursday, January 14th. We're going to look into a new set of explorers today with our Spanish explorers, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Just so you know, Spain is right here. It's this little yellow country. Portugal, the one that we talked about Tuesday, is right to the left of it, but that is Spain. All right, these are just some popular routes, or the routes of some popular, the purple ones are the Spanish explorers, okay? So that's all, they went all the way around South America, all the way around Africa, all the way to the Americas, okay? The first one and the most notable one is Christopher Columbus, obviously, okay? He was actually Italian, and he worked on ships from a very early age. He began his career as a Portuguese merchant marine, okay, and he married a Portuguese woman, actually, okay. He tried to get financial backing for his exploration from the King of Portugal. However, he was rejected, which meant that he then went to the Spanish monarchs to seek their sponsorship, and he waited 7 years before they finally gave him resources. He was given a fleet of 3 ships to sail west, the Pinta, the Nina, and the Santa Maria, okay. The fleet of 3 ships left Palos, Spain on August 3rd, 1492 and sailed westward. They landed on the Bahama Islands around October 12th, where they discovered the Americas. Okay. After a few months, Columbus wanted to return to Spain, so he left his crew there after building a kind of a community or settlement called Navidad, and he promised to return in a few months, okay? He went on a second trip that included 17 ships and 1,200 men in the fall of 1493. When he reached Navidad, he found that it had been completely destroyed by the natives, okay? This is what we talked about earlier this week, where the natives were just kind of sick of this intrusion. They believed that the land was theirs, and they didn't want those people there. He would make a few more trips back and forth from Spain to the New World, but he did wreck his ships in 1503, and he waited for a year to be rescued by the Spanish, and then he returned to Spain. All right, next we have Vasco de Balboa. He was a Spanish conquistador, okay, which means explorer or conqueror, okay? And in 1500, he explored the coast of what is present-day Colombia, okay? And then settled in Hispaniola. He started a town called Santa Maria de la Antigua on the Isthmus of Panama, which is a small strip of land that connects Central, okay, and South America, right here. If you ever heard of the Panama Canal, that's where it is. Not until much later, though. He was made the interim governor of that community. Okay, in 1513, he became the first European to see the Pacific Ocean, and he claimed the South Sea and all the lands around it for Spain. He became the governor of Mar del Sur, but was subject to a rival, Padarius, who was a colonial administrator. Okay. Padarius had Balboa seized, so he captured him because he thought that he was going to influence the others, okay? He was then charged with rebellion, treason, and other charges, and after a very, very corrupt trial, he was beheaded. Oh my goodness. Next, we have Ferdinand Magellan. He came from a very wealthy Portuguese family, and he was very well educated. In the year 1513, Magellan sought permission from King Manuel of Portugal to sail west to the Spice Islands in the far east, but he was refused, okay? So he then went to Spain, just like Columbus, and he offered his services to the Spanish court. King Charles of Spain gave his approval, and Magellan left on his expedition. He sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, where he arrived in Brazil, okay, and then he continued to sail down that South American coast. As they sailed southward, they discovered the Strait of Magellan. It's obviously now named for him since he sailed it, okay, where they went through the strait, which is right here. You can see on this map. There is a body of water down there that he went through, and entered the Pacific Ocean on November 28th, okay. Magellan named the Pacific Ocean, which actually means the peaceful sea. He continued eastward to the Philippines, where he was actually killed during in war or battle. Okay, the rest of his crew bravely continued across the Indian Ocean and traveled around the Cape of Good Hope from the east. Okay, they finally reached Seville, Spain, on September 8th, 1522. His crew was the first to sail completely around the planet, or it's called circumnavigate the planet. which proved that the earth was round, okay, once and for all, and showed that the vastness of the oceans were a lot greater than the land masses. Next, we have Hernan Cortez. Hernan was also a Spanish conquistador who went to Hispaniola in 1504. Okay, he began a march to Tenochtitlan, which is a modern Mexico City now. It was the capital of the Aztec Empire. So we've actually already talked about Hernan Cortez. The Aztec city would eventually fall to the Spaniards, okay, which we know. October 15th, 1522, Emperor Charles appointed Cortez the governor and captain of New Spain, which was that newly conquered region, okay? He rebuilt Tenochtitlan as a Spanish city in Mexico and subdued other native groups. Next, we have Juan Ponce de Leon. He's my favorite. He was a Spaniard, and he sought fame and fortune as a soldier. He migrated to Hispaniola, where the natives told him stories of gold in the neighboring island to the east, which is now what we would consider Puerto Rico. 4 years later, he crossed over and conquered the island. Okay, he took control of it, and he governed Puerto Rico until the king removed him from office in 1512. He obtained permission to discover and settle the island of Bimini, which is in the Bahamas. Well, it's now the Bahamas. The island was supposed to be a rich island northwest of Puerto Rico. He also looked for the Fountain of Youth. That's what he's famous for. He was on a quest to find the Fountain of Youth, which is a mythical spring that prevented aging and was told to be on that island. In 1514, Ponce de Leon returned to Spain, and he received permission to colonize Florida, actually, what is now Florida, at his expense. Okay. When the colonizing expedition landed in Florida, they were attacked, okay, by natives, and the settlement was abandoned. Ponce de Leon died after being wounded in that battle. All right, let's talk about Hernando de Soto. He was a Spanish explorer and conquistador who explored Florida and southeastern North America. By 1520, he became rich through slave trading in Nicaragua and on the Isthmus of Panama, okay? The royals in Spain commissioned him to conquer Florida, where Ponce de Leon couldn't, and this is a map of his journey. So he actually came all the way up here into North America. Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. He was a Spanish explorer who explored the North American Southwest. He was a leader of the great expedition to find the 7 cities of gold, where the streets and houses were to be said to be made of gold. All right, so he conquered a few cities throughout the Southwest, but he was never able to find that, okay, which left him greatly disappointed. Juan de Oden, I'm probably saying that completely wrong. He was a noble Spaniard born in the New World in Mexico, actually. Okay, so after other Spanish explorers conquered Mexico, he was actually born there, but then he began to conquer for Spain. He spent his early life looking for silver and leading campaigns to the Chichimex native tribe. He also played a major role in spreading Catholicism, okay, so the Catholic religion, and establishing missionaries in the conquered territories. In July 1598, Oden established headquarters in the New Mexico colony and held a festival in Thanksgiving for a safe passage across the Rio Grande River. In 1601, those conditions were intolerable from the lack of food. There were no discoveries of silver. They had trouble with the natives, which caused many of them to leave. By 1613, Oden was fined and banished from New Mexico permanently and banished from Mexico City for 4 years, so he returned to Spain. All right, go ahead and complete your show it. I do think that you should pay attention to these yellow highlighted passages, just saying. If you have any questions,